Welcome back to Philosophical Voyagers. I'm Dan.
And I am Joe.
And today we're going to talk about a controversial topic, the topic of simping. And for those of you who don't know what simping is, we'll explain in a moment. But before we explain, Joe, tell them what to do.
Well, folks, please like, subscribe, share, bang that notification bell. It helps us, it helps you, it helps the algorithm. Also, check us out on our Facebook page. You can check us out on TikTok, on X, formerly known as Twitter. And I want to warn you, folks, if you're sensitive, if you're queasy, if you're a wuss, you may not like this topic, as Dan talked about. What is a simp, Dan? Tell us what is a simp?
All right, it's hard to be put in such few words, but I'd say a very submissive man, somebody who just will do anything, just does not use his logic. And don't get me wrong, I've played that role myself.
So have I. So have I.
Yeah, so I'm pointing fingers, basically looking at my older self and saying,
Dan,
wow.
Let me ask you a question. Why are many Western men throwing away their money, Dan, their mental health and lives to being a simp for a woman? Basically, they come here. Some come with finances, plenty of finance, and they go from being a stable man in some cases to being a simp. From mental breakdowns to financial ruin to even murder to extreme.
Wait, are you talking about Western men in the West or here in Southeast Asia?
I'm talking in both. We can talk, but I guess we can say Southeast Asia because we're here. So, Dan, tell the folks about simping. Tell them.
Okay, well, right now, I'd more want to talk about the West.
All right, go ahead. Talk about the West.
Today, a lot of Western women, especially in coastal areas, more prosperous areas, have unrealistic expectations of men. And there's a lot of catch-22 situations, no-win situations. You know, a man is expected to show his emotions, but when he does, he's considered weak. You know, he's considered to provide, or first you hear, oh, it's not about gender. What does that have to do with it? But if a man cannot provide, well, he's not considered very desirable. And especially where I'm from, the Bay Area, and other places like it, New York, there's just such unrealistic expectations of men. And when there's a lower percentage of women than there are men, by nature, women can take advantage, just like here in Thailand. There's a higher percentage of women than there are men, so men naturally take advantage.
Now, folks, we understand that every woman isn't bad, but there is a case in the past 30 years men increasingly simping. Like I said, I've been guilty of that behavior. So is Dan. Dan, the Urban Dictionary basically describes simping as a form of codependent behavior. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's putting it very lightly. That's putting it very lightly and simplifying it. Now, what if one desperate act of love could cost you everything, your money, your sanity, even your life, or at least your freedom? Well, that's just it. How far would some people go?
Well, Dan, Western men are facing a crisis. Rising divorce rates, 50% in the United States, per the CDC. A lot of men are facing mental health struggles. Men account for 75% of suicides per the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Financial ruin, alimony, and child support. So, Dan,
yeah, simping isn't just an emotional disaster; it's a financial one as well. I mean, divorce settlements, let's face it, typically in a divorce, especially when they have children, the wife is often favored. And by the way, folks, I want to let you know that I don't like male chauvinism either. I don't like chauvinism of either kind. All right? I do believe both are capable of it. But anyway.
Yeah, this term simping really exploded on TikTok around 2020. And it's exploded. And like I said, folks, I'll be honest. I've been, particularly in my 20s and early 30s, I was simping, and I finally woke up. And that doesn't mean I don't believe in treating anyone bad. And the people who know me know I'm not like that. But I also believe that I should have to kiss every woman's ass and run around and beg. Neither.
I fully agree. And Joe, I don't think you like male chauvinism either.
Absolutely not. I don't believe in mistreating people neither. But let's be honest. Have there been bad men?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, but hey, but let's face it, the women aren't innocent neither.
Nope. This is part of gender equality. Gender equality is gender equality. It means both sides are responsible. And I think each feeds the other. I mean, okay, a lot of guys I know now who are outright misogynists, a lot of them used to be simps. A lot of them had just been screwed over so many times and been tricked and manipulated that, they just gave up. And they associated being kind with being weak.
Right. And I could tell you a personal story. Not This happened to a friend of mine. We were on deployment together in the Navy years ago. A faithfully married man. He thought he was happily married, had kids. So he went in this deployment, and come to find out during the deployment, she wasn't writing. And this is where emails just started to become public. So basically, we're working together. We're on the flight deck. Come to find out, gets back, the woman, his wife, has been screwing the baseball coach. So he wants to try to save the marriage. Long story short, she don't want to do it. They get divorced. He has to give up 50% of his military retirement, even though he wasn't the one committing the adultery. She was. So 50% of his pension ended up having to go into his ex-wife, even though she's the one who initiated the adultery. She's the one sleeping with the baseball coach. And he was trying to simp it back, but to no avail. Long story short. Subscribe for more details if you want more details on that story, folks.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, according to and by the way, according to this U.S. Census Bureau, men pay 97% of alimony in the U.S. Wow, I never thought it'd be that high. I would have guessed at least 65, 70%, but not 97%. That's
That
as
is
of 2022.
that's a pretty high fact. 70% of divorces in the U.S. allegedly are initiated by women. This is according to the American Sociological Association. That's just from 2021.
Mm-hmm. Now they say, and it's not just financial stuff either. It's simping can destroy your mind. For example, and it doesn't just empty your wallet; it shatters your soul. Men experience romantic rejection are 3.5 times more likely to develop depression than women. I don't know how true that is, but that's according to Journal of Social and Personal Relationships.
Hey, here's an interesting question: have the passport bros, that term passport bros? And I guess, Dan, you and I can be considered passport bros. I didn't leave the U.S. over women.
No, I didn't
I
either.
guess people can easily categorize us in that category. Did the passport bros shed a bigger light on this issue?
What it made me feel like I wasn't the only one. Some, because often like I said, I would date some women in the US, but they would just have unrealistic expectations. In fact, get this: when I'd be back visiting my parents, or even for a short while when I lived with them for like 6 months, I'd talk to my friends who had to move back home because they had no choice, they were divorced, or even just stayed single. And they would go out on dates, and once the dates found out that they lived at home, they would just immediately drop them. But I'm like, okay, well, where does she live? Oh, she also lives at home. It's like, wait, what a minute. So she lives at home, but she looks down on him for also living at home. That's such BS.
Well, Dan, there was a story sent to us by a listener, and we will to protect the identity here. This was a simp who funded her side hustle. Mike, a 35-year-old mechanic who fell for a social media influencer. So, Dan, tell us what happened in this story.
Okay, yeah, he spent 80,000 of his savings to fund her quote unquote cosmetics brand, believing he could buy her love. But she, what they call, ghosted him, as in blocked him from everything, took his money and ran, cost him his life savings. He declared bankruptcy. Now he's working 2 jobs, yada, yada, yada. Well, I'm sorry, that's his own fault. And there's plenty of scams out here too like that. And sorry, but that guy was pretty stupid to think he could buy her love. It doesn't work that way.
So basically, Mike lost his life savings. He declared for bankruptcy. He now he's working 2 jobs to try to recover. So Mike discovered that basically she used his money to fund lavish trips with another man, posting it all on Instagram. So I mean, I can relate to this because I myself at one time I had simp like behavior. I was in a relationship, Dan, years ago, and look, if the viewers want to make fun of me, go ahead. None of us are perfect. We all have skeletons in our closet.
Absolutely.
Years ago, I really liked this girl, and At first we're really good friends, and basically, look, I'll admit, I thought I can buy her love. I got caught up in that same behavior. Luckily, long story short, folks, men, the moral of this story, they either love you or they don't. And if you there's no you can't find love where love don't exist. And 9 times out of 10, chances are you ain't buying her love. I spent all sorts of money on this woman. I helped her out. End of the day, you know what happened? The result was she just loved me like a brother. And the truth is, it wasn't her fault. She told me the truth. I was just a wuss, a wussified freaking simp. And I
That
learned a hard lesson. You can't freaking buy love. So if you're a little puppy dog, you're acting like a limp wristed little wuss, chances are that turns a lot of women off.
Yeah, it does. It does. They talk about showing feelings, but I'm going to quote Jordan Peterson here. Do you remember in Superman, what's it called? Lois Lane would try to get Superman to show his emotional side and all that, his feelings. Well, who was that part that when Superman did show his feelings and more sensitive side, who did he come in the form as?
Go ahead, say it, Dan.
Clark Kent. He came in the form of Clark Kent.
Yes.
And Lois was absolutely turned off by Clark Kent. She thought he was just a complete wuss and all that. And I'm thinking, wow. In fact, Clark Kent was exactly what Lois Lane was saying she wanted from Superman. But it was
simping, Dan, just doesn't empty your wallet, Dan. It could shatter your psyche. It could shatter your soul. Men who experience romantic rejection are 3 times.
I said that already. I
Oh,
said
you
that
did.
already. Yes.
But all right, you did say that, right? But it could shatter your soul still.
Yeah, it could.
There is a story here, a simp who spiraled into madness. And this story was sent to us by a gentleman named, we'll say his name is David, a 28-year-old teacher obsessed with his college crush. Dan, tell us what happened in this story here.
He sent over 10,000 US dollars in gifts for over the course of 5 years, wrote at least 500 love letters, and stalked her social media. And she rejected him.
Done that. 500 love letters.
Wow. And then she rejected him publicly, calling him a creep. Okay. But then he was diagnosed with severe depression, lost his job because of erratic behavior, and was institutionalized after a nervous breakdown. But then while he was in a breakdown, he carved her initials into his arm, requiring 20 stitches. Well, okay, this is not the woman's fault. That's totally his fault.
Yeah,
I think absolutely. That was his own delusion. That was just his delusion.
So, men, advice. And again, I was guilty of doing it. Now, thank God, I never got like David. But if there was a couple women I really liked, I would try to chase them down. Let me tell you something. Don't chase them down. And again, I'll get personal with myself on this video. I was dating this woman. We got so serious, we thought we were going to get married. And I was in love with her. I was like, how can you explain it? I was like white on rice with her.
I understand.
We got into an argument one day over an issue. I chased her, dude, to the train station. She got in the train. I stopped. My roommate says, look, I told him what had happened. My roommate says, Joe, you need to quit being a simp. He didn't say simp because that word wasn't there yet. This is years back. He said, stop chasing. He goes, don't you call her. And it was hard. So for almost 2 days, I didn't call her. I took his advice. And dude, believe me, it was hard to do. But you know what? She finally texts me 2 days later and says, are you alive? I'm like, yeah, I'm alive. And then basically she got on me for not texting. But the point was, the moral of the story, when I stopped chasing her, guess what? I sort of regained a little bit of my mental health back and the psychological advantage. And she realized my roommate was right. When I didn't stop chasing her, she didn't have a psychological control over me anymore. And the relationship, I took a part of myself back in that relationship. And subscribe if you want to hear more of this story. I'll tell it more in detail or on a live stream if you have a question about it. But the point was, and to be fair, all of it wasn't her fault. No. But I learned an important lesson. Stop being up someone's ass.
Right. By the way, yes, there were times too that I was really into a woman, and Okay. Sometimes, okay, one I think in a gray area. She would play head games with me, but at the same time, she set a limit saying, no, no, that's too much, saying, no, please, don't pay for this here. Even though I was dating her, she would think, and I was easy to take advantage of. I was completely vulnerable, but even she would say, no, that's too much, that's too far. I think that's degrading if I let you do
And,
that.
and the
And
moral, yeah. And the moral of the story, folks, look, these simp stories aren't all women's fault.
no, no.
But the point is, since the Me Too movement, and particularly the really past 30 years, and it's starting to come to a head, a lot of men have checked out of society because they've been told they're
Mhm.
worthless. They've been told they're nothing if they're not making for $500,000 a year or have this house or have this kind of car. And a lot of men have checked out of society. And some men, uh, they've been so desperate to find love, either they want one extreme, checking out society, and if they can, they're leaving the West. Some of them, and you got others. Another one who we're particularly talking about in this video. This is called the disease of the simp.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Also, that's what I want to mention. You see a lot of women a lot of Western women who mistreat men, Western men. And eventually, a lot of Western men just give up. And what they call the passport bros, they come to either Southeast Asia to Africa to parts of Latin America, and suddenly all this negative attention comes on. They said, "Oh, you're dating a third world girl because you couldn't handle a real woman." It's like, what do you mean a real woman?
Yeah, and that's funny they say that. It's funny they say that. Well, you just can't get a woman in America. It's funny. I might have
Mhm.
thought that when I was younger, but it's funny when I go back home, visit my mom, and a lot of times I'll go to the gym just to get out of the house. I'll walk around, and it's funny now. And look,
Mhm.
I started working out again. I'm still overweight. It's funny. A lot of these American women are hitting on me more now, and I'm not saying I'm all that, but the point is, when I stop the simpic behavior, and again, I'm not saying be mean or abusive. When I stop chasing, when I stop pressing, and again, it's funny. A lot of these women will put down the men, but I sometimes I'll walk through Walmart in the United States, and I'm like, look, girl, I don't think you should be wearing those spandex, those purple spandex. You look a little, look, what do you offer? You're eating donuts and you're 300 plus pounds. And hey, I'm working out again, but I'm still slightly overweight. I'm not gonna take my shirt off on the beach and
Well,
look like.
Joe, yeah, I believe this though. Whether it's you or her or whoever, I believe a person has a right to wear whatever they want. I don't
They
believe we
can,
insert physique
but
to wear what.
but what I'm saying is the point is this:
What's that?
men are being judged on their income. Men are being judged on what job they have, and
Mhm.
yes, women have had it hard. There's no doubt. Women have, especially like places like Hollywood, where women are judged
Yeah,
how they look. Aging affects a woman more, but the point is, we're talking about in this title of this video, simp and
hmm
men simping. This is what we're talking about. We can do a whole other thing about women. Yes, women have it hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of which, by the way, I even saw an article. I forget the actress's name. She was a child actress, and I think a teenage actress as well. But then, as an adult, she got involved in the porno industry, the adult film industry, and she said she felt less sexually exploited in the adult film industry than she did in Hollywood growing up. I mean, that says something right there.
Well, we're back to the topic of simping, though. And this is story number 6 sent in from a listener. We'll call his name, or sent in, I should say, from one watching, not just listening, whose name is Mark. Dan, this man is a 33-year-old bartender who fell for a regular customer. Now,
So yeah, and what happened? He spent 20,000 on her bar tabs, gifts, and loans, and hoping trying to pursue her to leave her boyfriend, but she went behind his back, mocked
well,
him, and then he found
stop
out he's.
right Stop right there, real quick, Dan. Not to cut you off. First off, that guy broke man law. If the girl's taken, then hey, man, hey, bro, back off. Follow man law. Don't move in on someone else's woman. All right, Dan, go ahead.
All right, yeah, he did, and then but she took advantage. She took advantage. Maybe she pretended she was going to leave her boyfriend, but just took his gifts and then mocked him. Then when he figured out the truth, he spiraled out of control and became an alcoholic. He died of liver failure at 35. Alone, he had her name tattooed on his chest. Now that guy's not rational at all. I mean, the fact that he was trying to get her persuade, and the fact that he had her name tattooed on his chest. I mean, seriously, that guy's not. He's not rational. He
Well,
wasn't rational. And so
Dan, according to National Alliance on Mental Illness, this is from 2023. 1 in 4 men report mental health issues due to relationship stress.
I could believe that. I could believe that. And simping behavior is linked to low self-esteem, increasing anxiety by what 40%, according to the Journal of Clinical Psychology. And let's see. Oh yeah. Here, and there's also violent crimes too. There was one simp who killed for quote unquote love. There was a 25-year-old gamer who was obsessed with an OnlyFans model. His name was Ryan. He spent 50,000 US dollars on her content, believing that they were in a relationship. Well, she blocked him. He tracked her down and he stabbed her boyfriend in jealous rage. Now he's doing 25 years in prison. The boyfriend survived, by the way, but he required 6 surgeries. And then he live streamed his breakdown before the attack, crying and begging her to love him back. You can't beg someone to love you. That doesn't work. And so anyway, he thought just because he was a #1 fan, that he'd get something, but he became her worst nightmare. And oh yeah, and how about the sugar daddy part? That's like a big part of simping. 1 in 10 men who engage in sugar daddy relationships report being blackmailed or losing an average of 20,000 US dollars, according to Cybercrime Magazine. Joe, can you tell us a little bit about the simp who was blackmailed to death?
Well, the real quick before I talk about that, Dan, I have a story also of I had a friend of mine, and I would call him an acquaintance, and I was working with him contracting. We were contracting in Iraq, and this man he made good money. He worked on aircraft. He was a inspector. He ends up going home on his what they call leave, and his R&R ends up killing himself over his wife because she threatened to leave him, and she allegedly had another lover. So now, which brings us to the simp who was blackmailed to death. This was sent in to us. Well, so we'll call this simp Steven, a 50-year-old executive who met a woman on a dating app, basically. Pretty much, he sent this guy, Steven, was such a simp. He sent her $100,000 over a year, thinking, hey, she was in love with him.
But it was part of a scam, and that scam ring that blackmailed him and threatened him to expose him to his family. He was cheating on his wife, so there you go. That 100,000 could have gone to his family instead.
Yep, and Steven died of a heart attack tragically during a confrontation with the scammers who fled with his money. And his family, clutching a phone with her threatening messages still opened.
Oh, what a way to die. That's horrible. And so, he thought he found love online, but look, he still had a family and all that. And unfortunately, I've seen that happen. I've seen guys who were simping, but were also married to another. It's, and I just think, I'm not talking about a bad marriage when they're process of divorce. I'm talking about where he still goes home and calls his wife honey and says, oh yeah, I've got to go out, work a little extra, but he's got someone on the side and he's spending all his money on her. And the wife has no clue.
Men are innocent, 100% innocent. But again, this video we're talking about, this simping.
Yeah.
Maybe some guys are looking for a way out of or maybe they have a loveless marriage. Maybe some people are just lonely in their mother's basement eating Cheetos. I don't know. But I know this, it's a problem, particularly in the West. And I think even women are waking up to it because a lot of men have checked out of society. And again, I'm definitely no expert on romance but I can tell you this, since I got more secure in myself and I stopped simping behavior, my dating life has been a lot better. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but you have to be in. If you can't be comfortable in your own skin and be happy with yourself, chances are your relationship is going to have issues. And a lot of this simping, you said it earlier in the video, Dan, is due to a lot of low self-esteem.
Oh yeah, definitely. And maybe it's also part of thinking that'll give them self-esteem, like like they felt like failures, everything else, but a relationship might actually give them self-esteem somehow. And I'm afraid it doesn't work that way.
And I said it earlier. You can't find love where love don't exist. And if if she doesn't love you already, chances are she ain't gonna love you. And you can spend all the money you want. Some of them may respect you and care about, or you'll get that dreaded line, "Oh, I love you like a brother," or so the dreaded like you're like my best friend. And I've had that happen to me
Of
before.
course. Most men have. Most men
And,
have had
and,
it at some point.
yep, and it's not easy, but if you learn to be secure in your own skin and happy with yourself, you can stop some of this crazy simp like behavior. So the only thing I can tell you men out there, it's okay. Don't be a simp. Be secure in your own skin. Be secure in who you are. Be happy with yourself, and you'll find out, and it'll breed more confidence and more peace of mind. And believe it or not, a lot of women will notice that, and may increase your chances that way.
Yeah. Right. And this is where it's changing. A lot, yeah, I concur. A lot of women are waking up and they're realizing what's going on in the West. They
Actually,
realize a lot of men are just
yeah.
saying are just done and say, okay, we've got to change things. And also, to my surprise, a lot of women have told me that they don't like a lot of Western women have told me they don't like the way a lot of Western women are behaving, saying, they act so entitled. They act like so controlling, so demanding, so ungrateful. And I think the fact that it's a woman recognizing it's a multitude of women who recognize that in other women. I'm like, that gave me a sense of relief, thinking, okay, maybe it's not just my own delusions or my own bad experiences, it's others as well. And by the way, one other part about simping, just like the guy who cut the woman's arms or got tattooed, there was also a guy who burned his life away. Jason, a 29-year-old graphic designer, was obsessed with a Twitch streamer. Sorry, streamer, not screamer. And he donated $30,000 to her streams, thinking she'd notice him, but she ignored him. And well, he set his apartment on fire, thinking that he would prove his love to her. No, all he got was third-degree burns and lost all his possessions, and now is in a mental hospital.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the question, and
Yeah.
the tie it all together. How do you stop simping? Well, here's the wake up call. Enough horror stories, folks. We've told you enough horror stories. Here's how you can break free from the simp trap. And again, I think I just said a little piece of it a couple minutes ago. Never spend money you can't afford to lose on someone who doesn't reciprocate. And that reciprocation is not just reciprocating with money, but also emotion. When you put out emotion and someone's not reciprocating that emotion, it can have a heavier cost than just the money. But also don't spend money you can't afford. That will just cause mental stress. How about this one, Dan? To build self-esteem, therapy and self-improvement reduce simping tendencies by 50%. This is the source here. This is according to the Journal of Clinical Psychology, 2021.
Yeah. What is this? What do you see?
I just see that, hey, like I said a few minutes ago, if you need therapy, go get it. Go
Yeah.
get help.
That's right.
You don't want to end up, God forbid, killing yourself or committing a crime. Get help. Be
Absolutely not.
Be comfortable with yourself. Like I said a couple minutes ago, be happy with yourself. Know the red flags. Beware of women who demand constant gifts or emotional labor without commitment. And to be fair, it just doesn't happen in the West. That happens all over the world.
Yeah. It's like those who demand luxury gifts and all that and say, "Oh, I thought you were a real man. I thought you were good-hearted," when you've done a lot already. This is something I knew was a red flag for me. When a woman knew how much I earned,
Yeah.
and she knew how I lived and all that, and would ask for unrealistic gifts or rather expensive gifts, I said I can't afford that. Or she would first try to say, "Oh, you're cheap." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm cheap? I can't afford it. How can I be cheap if I can't afford it?" And she said, "I thought you were good-hearted." It's like, oh, me not buying you a luxurious gift determines that go. I told her where to go and what to do with herself.
Well, I've been guilty of that myself. Like I said, one thing the listeners I want you to understand, I'm not a phony. I'm definitely not perfect. I've been the man of the simp. Luckily, thank God I woke up and came out of it. Diversify your life, focus on hobbies and good friends, career. Women aren't the only path to happiness. Let me say this again, Dan.
Romance is not the only path to happiness, and you got to
Aren't
focus
the
on.
only path to happiness.
Right. Romance isn't the only path to happiness. You can focus on other things like hobbies, friends, career. And I'm guilty of something else. When I would spend less time with friends, I would work less or get into my hobbies less with the intention of spending more time and energy on the woman that actually turned her off. I didn't
Now,
understand it. My intention was to say, look, this is how prove you're important to me. She's like, oh, but you're putting too much aside. You're not focusing on things that better you. Now, some women were reasonable enough to tell me that I was doing damage to myself, and they said why it turned them off, and I said, okay, that in hindsight, I appreciate them telling me that I was doing something bad. I was
right.
doing something wrong for myself, but I've been lucky in other cases. Some cases I wasn't so lucky, and I got taken advantage of fully. Other cases, the woman told me, no, you can't go doing that.
Well,
That's bad for relationship.
to close this out, look, folks, we're not saying don't be with a woman. Don't take this message like that. Look, everyone, I want to find somebody. I'm not going to lie to you. But the point is this, at what cost? Find somebody that wants to be with you, that's going to reciprocate, that's going to love you back. It's going to give you, when you give emotion back. It's also going to put work into the relationship. With that being said, stop the simping. Stop it. You can stop it. Stop the cycle. If you're a simp, hell, I told you some of my stories. Put them in the comments below. If you have a simping story, put them in the comments below. Don't forget
Yes.
to like, share, bang the notification bell. Dan, tell them do they need to go on X, Dan?
Yes. Oh, come on. Just X. Ha. X, formerly known as Twitter,
That's right.
Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. What else? We're in Reddit. Please.
We're
Please,
everywhere. Go to
I'm
our
gonna simp for
Facebook
you all.
page.
I'm going to contradict myself, be a hypocrite, and simp for you all and say, please, oh, please follow us there. It makes me feel so warm inside.
So with that being said, folks, wherever you're at in the world, hey, don't be a simp. There's hope. If I can overcome
Thank
it,
you.
so can you. Take
That's
care. Dan?
Yes. You stole the words out of my mouth, Joe. Take care, folks.